What's the number one challenge for businesses today?
Workforce development, attracting, recruiting, and retaining people.
And that's why we created this podcast, designed for the frustrated CEO, the under-resourced recruiter, or the overworked manager, to give you the tools to tackle those WTF moments.
It's time to open another workforce therapy file. Hey everybody, welcome back to Workforce Therapy Files. Today we are kicking off file number 13. Jamie, do you want to say the title?
I do, but I'm going to do it with a little bit of restraint. Okay.
Oh, just give it your all.
I know.
Just
people
do
it. I can't do it now. Show me the money.
Woo, woo, woo.
You know, for those of you who are not of the Gen X generation or older, you may not know that that's from the movie Jerry Maguire, where we learned a lot of fun facts,
Like the human head weighs 8 pounds.
like the human head weighs 8 pounds, and that dogs and bees can smell fear.
I mean, those could be Jeopardy challenging questions.
I mean, I'm preparing you for life. Is what's happening right now.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Well, actually, Jerry Maguire prepared us for life.
Yes. And what's amazing is that's not the only fun facts you're going to grab today.
That's right.
So we have a guest that is joining us.
We have a great guest. Jason's here. Jason's back.
Yeah.
Welcome back, Jason.
We missed you
Yeah.
the last 2 episodes.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I missed you.
We're glad you're here.
I feel like it's only fair, though, because I don't know if our listeners were listening to all those Sherm minisodes, but Jason did not have any shame about letting me know that he was on most of those.
I recorded the majority of the,
I
was kind of
Like it was a
dominating
contest.
that,
He
yeah.
basically made me feel like I was a
Hang
loser.
on. Wait, are we talking about quantity or quality here? Because, I mean,
It was clearly quantity we were referring
Right.
to because
Yeah.
there wasn't a quality measurement, you know. But he had some pretty fantastic guests. And
He did.
I personally want to send a shout out to all of those people that participated that I didn't get a pleasure to meet because I was presenting. So I didn't get to have a seat at those tables.
It was great. But thank you for being there and making sure that we were getting good interviews with top talent there at the Sherm Conference,
Thank
Jason.
you. I
So
feel
thank
so
you.
special. Thank
You should. Hashtag
Winner,
special.
winner, chicken dinner.
You won it.
Yeah.
So back to our guest today.
absolutely. Who was at the Sherm Conference,
Yeah,
right?
I
That's how we
was.
connected all of this,
Yeah,
right?
I think that's when we pulled her in. We said,
you
we
know
have to
what?
bring you in.
People really underestimate the exhibitors hall where you can like really meet people and connections can be formed. I'm so
was
glad
great.
you're here, Wendy.
Intentionality, right?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Intentionality. I like it.
Plus,
So-
we weren't shy. We just jumped out of the booth
We
and
did.
grabbed
We
people.
kind of
and-
stood in the middle of the aisle.
Yeah, kind of blocked their way.
Even if they put us in the very back corner, you can't control us.
No, it was a good
Nobody
place.
puts workforce therapy files in a corner.
That's the T-shirt, Jim. Let's make that
I
happen.
love it. That's another movie that taught us a lot of things, right?
That's right. Yeah, a lot of things. Yeah.
It's a whole different podcast right there.
Whole different. Probably not on well-being, but Miss Wendy Hall.
Hello. Thank you all for having me on The Files.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, excited
I
to
like that
have
you
a good
called it the
conversation.
Files.
Yeah,
It sounded a little X-Files, like the way she
she
said
did.
it.
She didn't do the glasses thing though, right? She didn't do the
No,
taking the glasses off.
they wouldn't see it.
No, they wouldn't.
wouldn't.
But
So, Wendy, tell us about Wendy. Tell us about who you are, what you've done, and because we're talking today about showing us the money.
Showing you the money.
So help us understand how you are an expert in this.
Well, my background is way too long for the number of years I've lived, which I'll
course.
never tell.
The math is getting weird. It's getting
Yeah,
weird.
no. So, but I have been in some form of employee benefits or HR for the last years. Have been in all sorts of different roles. But what I love to do is help employers create really great, engaged employees through their employee benefits plan, while at the same time not breaking the bank and their spreadsheets. Because as we know, typically employers have their first, second, or third line of their spreadsheets go to benefits. They go to the cost of benefits. They are highly costly, and there's ways to control those. So my favorite thing to do is to help them figure out how to control those costs, but at the same time get their employees excited about the benefits that they have and understanding them and how to use them.
I love it.
Yeah.
so when we talk about total rewards, it's not just about the cash out. It's not about the hourly rate. There's so many variables that come into play. So one of the things that we do at Incipio when we work with organizations is when you are handing someone an offer letter, that second page needs to be the total rewards. So you've basically got your base pay, your benefits, your retirement, any other benefits that are being paid, time off, PTO, definitely. All of that equals an amount for your total reward, not just the base pay. And I think there is a lack of education for positions and organizations across the states that don't emphasize that money that's being put back in and the differentiators for each employer. So why does it matter if someone leaves a company for 50 cents on the hour, but they were getting 100% paid health benefits? They're going to be losing money. They think they're going for more, but they're going to have less. So having that total rewards transparency that we kind of talked about, the value of the total rewards, cash versus benefit, what does that really mean? So what do you guys think about having that level of transparency in an offer letter or even in an annual review for people?
Yeah, that's absolutely right, Molly. I mean, that is one of the things that employers, when executives come to me to work with me, that's one of the topics they discuss is, I'm tired of losing great employees to cents, maybe $1 an hour, and they don't understand the benefits. And some will say, oh, we do a total rewards on an annual basis, but they don't get it. So that means that you're not providing education around it, right?
Right.
Actually sitting down and letting people know, making it part of your State of the Union address to your employees on an annual basis. What is it that we're giving to you? And alternatively, asking them for feedback about what they want, because we are in a situation in where we have going on 5 generations in the workforce, and they all want different things. Me as a baby boomer find the importance in a certain group of benefits. Well, those elfists coming in aren't looking for the same things that I'm looking for. And what are they? Understanding and really digging into what those are instead of saying, yeah, we offer benefits, we're good. Really identifying what those mean so that when you're spending the money, you're really getting something back for that, for what you're spending.
The education piece is key too, because I remember my very first job. And when I had my very first job, I was looking at Jason because I loved his first job story from.
Yes.
At my very first job, I remember getting. Oh my gosh, he made a pig noise. I remember getting information about benefits and not knowing the difference between coinsurance and copay. I remember having to make my first 401k elections and having zero clue of where to start. And at the time, the company I worked for didn't provide education, didn't provide a resource to help guide through that. So what kind of things do you see happening to help people understand the value of their benefits?
Well, I always say, the insurance part of employee benefits, of course, is big because that's what the line item is, right? That's what your CFOs are looking at. That's what the costs are. But that happens one time a year, right? We renew benefits on an annual basis, oftentimes around the first of the year, and then it goes away, right? We're like, phew, we got through open enrollment. Whew, thank gosh, right? But you've got another 11 months of the year. So what are you doing those 11 months to provide education, to take data and understand where gaps might be in either care or gaps in education? What are we getting in our call centers to understand what questions are being asked from employees to say, oh, look, we've had, a uptick in how to use, should I go to the emergency room? Well, we need to provide then some education around the emergency room, if that would be it. Or how do I get a hold of my 401k provider because I'd like to change my beneficiary or whatever. So you can take that data, use that data and logic and all those tools to be able to identify where your gaps in education and communications might be. So there's 11 months that you can really, so the next time you come around to open enrollment, they understand what an HSA is. They understand where to grab information on their 401k. They understand that maybe you're providing a financial education benefit to them and how to utilize it. So I would say that, that from that education piece, lots of opportunity to do it. You've just got to pull the trigger and make sure that you're aligned from a leadership standpoint to make sure that happens.
And how often do you think an organization should audit their benefit packages? And does that change depending on the size of the organization?
Okay, double question there. A lot of organizations that are run by boards or government organizations have requirements around that. Every 3 years you need to do an RFP and you need to take a look at you have to do your due diligence. I would say that would be a minimum. And I would also say that anytime you think that something isn't working well, maybe it's time to explore other alternative relationships as far as work is concerned.
And the second part was like the size of the organization. So if you employ 20 or less, does that change how often you should be looking at it versus if you have 3,000 employees?
No, not necessarily. The funding might change. The programs might change. Your options might change based on the size of your organization. But it is all relative to what's coming out of your on your spreadsheet, right? So you owe it to your company and to your employees, especially if you start talking about the cost of retention, turnover, and attraction, recruitment. That's an additional pot of money that sometimes doesn't get looked at benefits, but it can definitely, benefits can be a differentiator in that area.
Yeah. And polling the employees, you feel like that's an important.
Absolutely. Yeah.
the
As I
equation.
shared, I think that absolutely. What do they want? What are they looking for? Understanding that, number one, they feel like they're being heard then, and they pay attention to the question, what do you need? What do you want? And number two, you can go back on that and say, listen, we're asking you what you want. And how do we give that to you? And if we're giving it to you, why are you leaving us from that standpoint?
Absolutely. Well, I have a question because Molly brought up transparency. And one of the things that I've seen is that organizations have varied beliefs about how transparent they should be with their team members about how why they pay what they pay and what benefits they've selected and the part that they're providing. I'm curious from your perspective, how do you see the level of transparency vary, and what do you recommend?
Well, I think transparency is your best friend, to be honest. You can't compete in the workplace if your employees think that it's better someplace else, if the grass is greener on the other side. So tell them what color the grass is on your side, to the point of having, annual review of benefits and costs and total rewards. What is it that we're sharing with you? If they don't know, they're going to make an assumption, and it may not be a good assumption on the organization's part.
Absolutely.
Right? They're going to think less of their benefits. Back to the communications piece, we have a lot of evidence that shows that a poor benefits plan, what would be identified as a poor benefits plan, if it's properly communicated, is actually identified by employees as being a great program because they don't know the difference. But a great program that isn't properly communicated, you could be paying that 100% of the cost for the employee. But if it's not communicated well, if they don't feel educated, if they don't know how to use it, it's perceived as being a bad benefits. My plan sucks.
Yeah.
So to speak.
I think it's really important to share benchmark information and help individuals understand why, yes, I know that your sister works across the street and she's in a completely different industry, and that's why she makes $5 more an hour.
That's
right?
right.
It's a different job. This is what we are comparing ourselves to. I think sharing some of that relevant market data, relevant information goes a long way to help build trust with your employees about the process and that there is a process. I remember working for a company one time where employees legitimately thought that we just stuck our finger in the air to see which way the wind was blowing to determine how much we paid people. They didn't know that there was pretty significant market comparisons and effort that went into defining what was an appropriate pay structure for that position so that we could be competitive, but they had no sense of what work went into that. Right.
Well, and again, so they're assuming things
Absolutely.
that aren't the reality. So if you're not transparent, they don't know better.
For
right?
sure.
And from that benchmarking standpoint, it's really important for the employer to do benchmarking as well. benchmarking on an annual basis to identify how you stand up with your competitors as far as talent is concerned, is super important. And, what is our time off policy? Is it, understanding if you're below or above the bogey? And those types of reports and information and data is absolutely available. And to your point, Jason, if your broker isn't sharing that with you, you probably need to seek a broker that will provide that type of data for you on an annual basis.
Yeah, and going back to what you said earlier about, sharing that in like a State of the Union, not just providing a sheet of paper in everybody's locker, but providing that in a State of the Union and sharing, financial information and, the state of the company kind of tells them this is where we're putting our resources. To your point, Jamie, like there's a balance sheet here. We can afford to do these things. This is what we're doing to benefit you. And it's based on the profitability of the company. So having them inside
And your feedback. That's how you
Yeah,
chose
and
what
your
you chose.
feedback, yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Wendy, what do you think is what are the benefits that employers or the employees are looking for pre-employment? Does that differ from post-employment? So before I come into the job, am I looking for something, and then after I'm there, am I looking for something different?
That's a great question. I don't know if this specifically answers it, but I will answer it with this, just by saying that the traditional benefits program is kind of going by the wayside, right? Employees are looking for more of a cafeteria style plan, right? Back to 5 generations in the workforce, and everybody's kind of looking for something different. So putting together programs that will provide options for employees is really important. Right now, what's getting a lot of traction is a benefit called a lifestyle savings account, LSAs. So these have become, they're getting traction and they're getting a lot of excitement because what happens here is that employers set aside dollars that will go towards specific identified services that they can get with the dollars that they've set aside. Yes. So it could be life coaching. It could be pet insurance. It could be,
Funeral expenses.
Huh?
Funeral expenses.
Exactly.
Right?
It could be home office furniture, or it could be a workout, your gym.
Yeah.
So whatever is important to you, you can choose, and you have a bucket of money, and the employer determines that bucket of money, how it can be spent, and what the parameters are for that. So these types of kind of out of the box thinking are what's really catching the interest of folks coming into employment. And the education, again, is what keeps them engaged in those types of services. If you're engaging them and they're utilizing them, they will like them.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Now, are those things that companies run themselves, or they work with a broker or a company that manages those things for them?
Yeah, so there are vendors that will help you put those together, just like an FSA account or an HSA account.
Nice.
But a lot of that stuff wouldn't be pre-tax dollars.
That wouldn't. You're correct. Those would not be pre-tax dollars. But the organizations that are providing like financial education programs oftentimes will have an LSA account that they can help you administer. Yeah. Not super costly, but definitely a big bang for your dollar. And it hits on every, right? You don't have to worry about the 5 generations, people that are getting what they need.
Gives them control.
It gives them control. And the other piece is from the financial standpoint, lots of interest in financial education and the financial, because we know that there's a great loss of productivity for those that are stressed financially.
Absolutely.
They spend 3 hours a week on average at work working through their financial stressors, and 60% of the workforce has financial stress. So being able to provide a benefit that provides services along that area is really, really important to the workforce these days.
So, Wendy, a lot of the companies that Incipio, Crowd South, Parcel work with, we have a portfolio of smaller companies that don't have on-site benefit support, right? Like they may not have that as part of their team. what resources would you recommend for those companies, or even those that have benefits teams that maybe have grown a little stale in how they are benchmarking? What are the resources that you think are relevant and powerful for these companies to look at?
Well, I think there's a whole slew of opportunities for, our smaller employers. Most brokers do have a group that is dedicated to that smaller, the smaller employer under 50, because they have different needs and they have different service needs. So there are products that are available specifically to them. And I would say reach out to your community resources. A lot of the chamber programs, chambers have programs around benefits that help them take a larger group, accessible, you have access to a larger group, so your rates go down, right? It affords you a better plan when you've got that crowdsourcing, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so I would say, reach out to your local chambers and see what kind of programs that they have. But benefit services and analysis is available for those smaller groups if you're working with the right team.
And that's what I was going to say. I think a lot of the benefits that are being offered through an organization, I had a conversation with a client a couple of weeks ago, and I'm a firm believer that you can't just have one plan, because there are 5 generations in the workplace. You're narrowing your talent attraction by only having one plan. And the way that you should work with a broker, and Wendy, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm okay to be corrected, I take that. Your broker can offer those things. It's not something you have to manage. It's just something that you have to offer to really gain the traction of talent that you need for the organization. So keeping in mind too that things like financial stress does not discriminate. It's not just your frontline workers. It's not just your supervisor level roles. Financial stress can impact the entire hierarchy of an organization, and being mindful of that for whatever reasons. It could be family stress. It could be situational health, and making sure, and from my point of view, and primarily as a recruiter, what are the different ways that we can attract different talent and why? Because the benefits, as you said earlier, Wendy, to a boomer are completely different than a 20-something. It's just, they don't have the same needs.
Absolutely. And let's face it, benefits, especially healthcare, is hard. I've been in the...
So confusing.
So I've been in the industry for years, right? I never tell you how many, 30 years, okay? And I get an EOB across my mailbox, and I'm like, I'm not going to look at this, right? It's stressful.
What's an EOB?
An explanation of benefits.
I'm looking at her like, are you kidding?
No.
It's an explanation of benefits. Yeah, but you're right. People don't know.
Right.
You're absolutely, people don't know. And they definitely don't know what all those numbers are on there. Back to utilizing resources that are available, but you have to be educated on the resources to be able to access them.
Absolutely.
So knowing that who to call, whether it's the carrier or whether it's your broker, because they have a special unit that they put together to help you in those types of situations, you have to reach out for help. There are also a ton of vendors out there, to that point, Molly, that can help your employees with education, with benefit decision-making tools, with enrollment, where they'll sit knee to knee with you, or sometimes now it's, screen to screen with you, because we don't do as much knee to knee anymore, but they'll sit and go through, what does your healthcare look like? How much utilization do you have? Who's being covered on the plan? What are the ages? Are they getting ready to go into a Medicare situation, or are they still young? Are they going to be on your plan for a long period of time? What are your health risks? And they can help you identify the right plan to go on. So oftentimes people literally put their benefit open enrollment information on the cupboard, and they throw a dart. Okay, this year we're going with the HSA. Don't know what that means, but the dart said that's it's kind of like, where are we going on vacation, y'all? Because but they really don't truly understand how to utilize those programs. So having a advisor that can help share those various support tools and resources is vital, because there are a ton of them out there, some good, some not so good. But an organization that can help you vet those tools and resources, understand what the costs are, and find the value in it, and then understand whether or not it's appropriate for your culture
Yes.
of your organization. With all of those different determinations, you can figure out what levers to pull to be able to create a really great program for your organization that fits your culture, but also provides all of that support that your employees need in order to thrive as it relates to their employee benefits program.
One of the things I'd like to echo is that once you've put together this amazing plan, one of the things that you've hit on is, do we even market and communicate? And if you as an organization are not using total reward statements, you are missing out on the ability to market what the organization is investing in their talent.
100%.
If you have individuals who make $15 an hour and they have no sense of the fact that it's actually costing you closer to $45 to $50 an hour after all of the benefit costs are factored in, there's so much awareness that goes into that of what you would have to pay if you were doing this on your own. If you were
exactly.
paying for your own insurance, and even then you're getting a group discount. So it's even more expensive when you have to do that on your own. So I think it's worth taking the time to put together a total reward statement. And many of your HR systems have the ability to have tools that will create these for you. And I think it's worth taking the time to explore that with your systems.
And internally.
Absolutely.
You know, Wendy gave us a fun fact before we started recording that $500 billion are lost in missed work. So absenteeism, turnover, lost productivity, vacancies. There are numbers associated with it from the employee perspective and the employer.
Absolutely.
And I don't think there's enough emphasis on that impact as an employer, because the other side of it isn't weighted and it isn't shared. So when you think about
And you
all
said
the-
billion with a B,
B,
as in boy.
B-I, not M, B, 500 billion. So how do we share? How do we express and communicate both internally, externally, employee-centric, employer-centric? What do we need to do?
Wendy, what would you say to an employer who is apprehensive about including their benefits in their marketing materials, in their outreach?
I would say,
Get over it.
get over it. Why are you afraid to communicate and connect with your employees? We're not in the age anymore where employees are handcuffed by a golden watch, a gold watch, right? I mean, they leave for any reason. So part of your job as the employer is to keep your employees. It costs a lot of money. Probably Miss Molly here can share that statistics even more, but I think it's about $7,000, $8,000 on average to turn over a position in an employee, probably more than that.
Well, it depends on how long they stay. The longer they
Well-
stay, the more it is.
And I think that one of the things that we've learned in our conversations is that every story that's happening at your company will be told. The question is whether or not you're part of the story and putting together the why and sharing all of the things that we talked about in the triangle of trust in our last episode. Like checking yourself and
Right.
being part of putting together that messaging.
Yes.
Or
That's
you can
right.
let someone else tell your story. You choose, because employees are talking. And if you assume everybody that works at your company knows at least 5 people, they're letting them know, like, oh, wait, you don't understand. My insurance really came in clutch when this happened in my life, or it did not. They're
you're-
telling that story.
And if your leadership or your organization is apprehensive about sharing that publicly, maybe it's time to take a look at the benefits and see if they're worth bragging about,
That's right.
and go back to the table.
Back to the benchmarking.
Do that audit.
How do you stand up? How do you stand up? And if it doesn't bother you or you're not concerned about it, why are you burying your head in the sand in that? Are you uneducated as leadership? Do we need to explore opportunities and ways for us to uncover in all of the various areas of your benefits, right? Because benefits no longer, like I said, are just about insurance. They're about compliance. They're about risk management. They're about population health, wealth, and well-being. They're about your HRIS systems, right? How do they integrate? Does your HRIS system do what it needs to do for you, specifically for you? Or did one of the payroll companies come knocking on your door and you said, oh yeah, we'll just go with you? There are tools that can help you access that information so that you are putting together the right pieces of the puzzle for your employees. And it's important that you know that all of those pieces exist and that you have to tap into each one of them.
And employers, if you can't afford to put together this really sexy package, if you can't afford that, then there are a lot of ways to create benefits that people value that have nothing to do with the financial investment of benefit packages. You can explore things like, how do you do time off? What flexibility do you offer? What kind of environment can you promote? There's a lot of ways to tell your company story, your purpose, how you lead, what kind of place people can expect to deal with, and your messaging and your branding that can still be part of your story.
Absolutely. And to that point, I mean, when we're talking about smaller groups, there are a ton of different ways that you can strategically provide health insurance or employee benefits to your employees. They can be funded in a lot of different ways. There can be resources, some of these financial opportunities that we talked about, or financial resources and tools are not costly at all. A lot of times your banks will come in and they'll provide it for the opportunity to have access and marketing to their employees, right? They'll provide a bunch of education and a bunch of information and a little bit of time in order to get that name out, right?
Yeah.
And they're great tools and resources. They put a lot of money into creating them for your employees. So to your point, lots of opportunities. Not everything is super costly when it comes to benefits. Sometimes it's amazing. I just worked with an employer that has a very robust wellness program. Lots of bells, whistles, jumps through hoops. And we're coming in and saying, really, the bang for your buck is in preventive care. 60% of Americans don't have a primary care physician. And we know that statistically, if we can catch cancer in stage 1, you got a 91% of mortality, right? I mean, you're going to live. But if we catch it at stage 4, it goes down to about 21%. And we know that a mammogram costs about $250, but to arrest breast cancer costs $20,000 to $300,000, depending on where we catch it, right? So aligning with a primary care physician, that costs very little. You can incentivize your employees to do that by their contributions, right? You pay less if you have a primary care visit. Instead of having all these apps and all that type of thing, start there. It's very inexpensive to do. It starts your employees out on a great relationship and getting healthy, because we know statistically, okay, I got to look because I got stats here.
We like stats.
You like stats. Good majority of the population has some kind of chronic illness. That's it. 80% of our healthcare spend is on care that is based on decisions of lifestyle. 80% of our healthcare dollars go to lifestyle type of chronic diseases. High blood pressure, heart disease, diabetes too, right? All of those things. Those are things that we can control, and we don't. That's billions and billions and trillions of dollars.
Yeah.
And we're falling short of helping our employees, right? Leadership down, make sure that those types of programs are available. It can be as simple as going to the primary care physician.
It's such a big, responsibility for leadership to get this right. Wendy, we're very thankful that you came here today to share your expertise.
Yes, thank
This
you.
has been
Thanks
amazing.
for being here.
Is there
Thank you.
anything that you wanted to say, or one thing you want the audience to take away that you didn't get to today?
Oh my goodness, probably so much. But we can, get together with a really great employee benefits advisor, and they will help show you the money.
Awesome. All right, Jim, close that file.
Thanks for listening to the Workforce Therapy Files. We hope you learned something new, and we're thankful for the time that you spent with us today. If there's a topic you'd like us to discuss, reach out to us. Our contact information's listed in the show notes. Until next time, keep your head up.